الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونستنصره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا، لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. وأشهد أن نبينا وعظيمنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وبعد. يقول جل جلاله في محكم كتابه: نبئ عبادي أني أنا الغفور الرحيم وأن عذابي هو العذاب الأليم. He says subhanahu wa ta'ala, tell my servants, let them know that indeed I am the most forgiving and the most compassionate, and let them know that my punishment is very painful. Jazakumullah khair. If you can close in the gaps a little bit. I see a lot of gaps ahead of me, people standing at the door. If you can come closer together, barakallah fikum, that would be very appreciated. قيل لكم تفسحوا في المجالس فافسحوا يفسح الله لكم. This is, I believe, the 14th khutbah or installment of the series of khutbahs that I started a number of months ago. Achieving the balance. As Muslims, we are obligated, we are required to understand our deen in a way that allows us to become what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to become when He described us as ummatan wasata, the nation of moderation. And I've talked about many different aspects of Islamic principles and values, trying to help all of us understand what it takes and what it means to achieve that balance. And today, what I'm going to point out is something that is supposed to be very simple and very easy, but for some reason it isn't. A Muslim lives with two approaches in how he goes, or how he or she goes by getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if we are flying and soaring towards our Lord. We need two wings. And this is how scholars have traditionally always explained this. This is how it's been. This is a very ancient concept. It's over 1,000 years old. That you need two wings in order for your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be meaningful. You need one wing of raja, of desire in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has offered you. And the other wing of khashya, of reverence from being punished due to the sins that we commit. And without one of those wings, you can't really fly. You'll flop and then you'll hit the ground. So this khutbah could be given in two different ways. I can give this khutbah in two ways. I can start the definitely with either of them and then show the other one as the caveat or the exception or the concept that will achieve the balance. But I'm going to start it with what I think here in this society is more important. Obviously, there's definitely, as Muslims, we are in desire, in constant desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reward. That's how the Quran goes. The Quran is filled with verses that talk to us about Jannat Na'im, about the gardens of bliss in heaven. It explains to us what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for us once we move away from this world, we move on. The Quran is just almost every surah, almost every single surah. I'm not talking about the small short ones that are in Juz' Amma, the 3-liner ones. Any surah that's over a page or around a page, every surah in the Quran, somewhere in it will talk about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for us as Muslims. Those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a lot has been promised to you if you walk the path, if you stay the course throughout your life. وَجَزَاهُمْ بِمَا صَبَرُوا جَنَّةً وَحَرِيرًا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا. He says subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ تَعْرِفُ فِي وُجُوهِهِمْ نَضْرَةَ النَّعِيمِ يُسْقَوْنَ مِنْ رَحِيقٍ مَخْتُومٍ خِتَامُهُ مِسْكٌ وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون. He describes subhanahu wa ta'ala Jannah in the Quran. I could spend multiple khutbahs just explaining these verses, just explaining the beauty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put inside of them, the profound bliss, the profound pleasure and leisure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for you on every level, whether it's your basic instincts or whether it's aspects of you that you don't even know about yet, whether there's aspects of depth of your own personality, where there is bliss and leisure within them that you have not accessed yet as a human being, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself will bring forward for you yawm al-qiyamah so that you may find pleasure in ways that you never imagined possible. These verses in the Quran just continuously explain to us this is what's waiting for you. So as a Muslim, you're living your life in desire of that moment. It's okay to be selfish. It's okay to want to find that pleasure yawm al-qiyamah. It is actually an obligation upon us as Muslims to want that and to work towards that. And the beautiful part of this is that if you look at the Prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam, and if you look at the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they lived for it. That's how the Sahaba functioned. There's no doubt the Sahaba, when they heard these words from the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam describing Jannat and Na'im, their hearts almost left their chests. They were in such disbelief almost of the beauty of what they were hearing, that's all they wanted, that's all they could think about. And you take the stories, you find Umayr ibn al-Hammam radiallahu anhu, right before Badr, he stands there, within his hands 3 or 4 or 5 dates, and he's standing there, and the Prophet ﷺ is telling them, today, who stands his ground and passes away and is martyred, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for him, Jannat and Na'im. He starts describing Jannat and Na'im. So he's standing there, he wants to eat the dates before the battle. And then he looks at them and he says, أَمَا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ الْجَنَّةِ إِلَّا هَذِهِ التَّمَرَاتِ. And you're telling me between me and between Jannah are these dates. I'm wasting time eating these dates. أَلَا إِنَّهَا لَحَيَاةٌ طَوِيلَةٌ. What a long wait. What a long wait. ثُمَّ أَلْقَى التَّمَرَاتِ. And he gave them away to someone else. ثُمَّ دَخَلَ فَخَاضَ الْحِمَامَ فَمَاتَ. And then he entered and he fought and he stood his ground and he was martyred. Haritha ibn Suraqa was a young man who stood by the Prophet ﷺ in one of the battles. And before the battle even began, the archers from the enemy sent an arrow and it fell right into his chest, and he passed and he was martyred that day. And he died right before the battle actually began. So the mother got scared, Haritha, Rubayya bint al-Nadr, radiallahu anha. So they came to the Prophet ﷺ, he told him, what came of my son? Tell me, I need to know. Where is he? Because in her mind, he died before the battle. So she didn't understand what that meant. So she stood there and said, you need to tell me what came of him. If he is in Jannah, then I accept. And if he's not in Jannah, then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم, no, he's not in Jannah. بل هو في جنان, he's in many of them. وإن ابنك أصاب منها الفردوس الأعلى. Indeed, your son is in the highest of them all. Sayyidina Amr ibn al-Jamuh radiallahu anhu was a gentleman in his 70s. He couldn't walk straight. He was crippled. He had a disability. All his life, that's all he heard. You can't do this because you're disabled. You can't do that because you're disabled. All his life, that's all he spent hearing people telling him he can't do this and he can't do that because he's disabled. Once Uhud came and he was around, he got his armor on and he just decided that he was joining. So his sons come and say, no, you can't, you're disabled, you're not required to. There's no haraj upon the one who has this ability to go fight in war. You don't have to. So he refused. So they went to the Prophet ﷺ. They told him, you need to speak to him because he can't go and do this. He's going to get killed. So the Prophet ﷺ said, yes, he doesn't have to. He's not required to. So he goes and speaks to him. So he speaks to Amr ibn al-Jamuh and he tells him, there's no haraj, you're a'raj, you don't have to go. فَقَالَ أَعْرَجْ أَعْرَجْ. That's all you tell me is disabled. وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلِّي أَنْ أَطَأَ بِعَرْجَتِي هَذِهِ الْجَنَّةِ. Maybe this crippled leg that no one seems to think is valuable at all, maybe this leg will enter Jannah one day. Maybe it'll stand right into Jannah. I'll walk right into it. I'll march into Jannah with it. What do you know? قال فسكت النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام. He heard that, so he understood. He understood the pain in this gentleman's voice. So he told his children, leave him, let him be. So they say at the beginning of the battle, he got on the battlefield and he started to run. He was running towards the mountain during the battle because that's when the archers came running down. When the archers left their spot on the day of Uhud and caused the chaos, he started running towards the mountain to defend it. The people who are describing it, he was running the way he ran because he was disabled. He couldn't run straight, so you could see he was running in a weird way. People knew it was Amr ibn al-Jamuh because no one runs like that but him. يقولون ينادي يقول واها لريح الجنة واها لريح الجنة. The beauty of the scent of Jannah. إني لأشم الجنة عند ذلك الجبل. I smell Jannah right there at that mountain. قال ثم التفت إلى المدينة. Then he turns to Medina. قال اللهم لا تردني إليه. Don't send me back, oh Allah. I do not want to go back. Today is my day. And he would go, radiallahu anhu, when he passed away. They loved al-Jannah. They lived for it. They were willing to give everything so that they could be from Ahl al-Jannah. And that is what we are required to do, definitely as Muslims. I'm not even going to start unpacking the fact that we don't. This is not the point of this khutbah. I'm not even going to attempt to unpack the fact that we don't do that. But definitely as Muslims, if you believe in La ilaha illallah, then you know, then that is how you're supposed to live your life, 100%. إخواني وأخواتي، اليوم الحديث في الخطبة عن جناحي عبادة ربنا سبحانه وتعالى، جناحي الخشية والرجاء. وهذه الخطبة الرابعة عشرة من سلسلة الخطب التي ابتدأتها منذ عدة أشهر، وأتحدث فيها عن قضايا إسلامية بديهية من المسلمات، وأحاول أن أوضح بعض النقاط التي تعيننا على أن نكون أمة وسطا، على فهمها بأسلوب وسطي يعيننا على حسن الفهم عن ربنا سبحانه وتعالى، لأننا كمسلمين الآن نعاني في هذه المسألة شيئا ما. واليوم حديثي عن الرجاء والخشية. لا شك أن المسلم يرجو ما عند الله، لا شك أن المسلم في قلبه يرجو ما عند الله من النعيم، يرجو ما عند الله من العطاء. نقرأ آيات الجنة والعطاء الإلهي يعني وترغب نفوسنا وترتقي قلوبنا في الرغبة أن يعطينا الله سبحانه وتعالى ما قد وعدنا، ونحيا حياتنا كاملة نرجوه سبحانه وتعالى أن يأجرنا يوم القيامة وإن لم نكن لذلك أهلا. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمرنا إذا سألناه الجنة أن نسأله الفردوس الأعلى منها وإن لم نكن لذلك أهلا. الصحابة رضوان الله عنهم أجمعين عاشوا حياتهم متعلقين بمعنى الجنة، متعلقين بذلك المعنى. أرسل النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله بن أنيس رضي الله عنه لقتال أحد الذين كانوا يعدون العدة للقضاء على المسلمين، فأخبره أن اذهب إليه فاقتله، فإذا قتلته تفرق الجمع من بعده ثم عد إليه. فكان عليه الصلاة والسلام يذهب فيستشرف عند مشارف المدينة، عند أواخر المدينة، ينتظر قدومه يوما بعد يوم، كل يوم ينتظر من بعد المغرب إلى العشاء حتى يعود، حتى عاد رضي الله عنه بعد حوالي شهر، تأخر شهرا كاملا وقد أنجز المهمة. فقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: يا عبد الله أأفلح الوجه؟ فقال: نعم يا رسول الله. فقال: تعال معي إذن. فأخذه معه فأذهب به إلى داره، والصحابة يهنئونه ويباركون له ويفرحون به ويدعون له. فدخل النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم داره، وعبد الله رضي الله عنه واقف خارج الدار ومحاط وحوله من الصحابة العدد الجم الغفير. فخرج عليه الصلاة والسلام وبيده شيء، فقال: يا عبد الله تعال فخذ مكافأتك. فأتاه رضي الله عنه فرحا، فأعطاه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عصا. فتعجب الناس فقالوا: يا عبد الله ماذا أعطاك رسول الله؟ فقال: أعطاني هذه العصا. ولم يكن يدري رضي الله عنه ما يفعل بها. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لما رأى الاستغراب في وجوههم قال: يا عبد الله هذه العصا اجعلها معك، فإذا ما بعثك الله يوم القيامة من قبرك ائتني فارفعها فقل: يا رسول الله هذه العصا أنا صاحبها، فإذا رأيتك أخذتك وأدخلتك بها الجنة. فصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من ربط قلب شاب بالجنة بعصا. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم. يا فوز المستغفرين، استغفر الله. الحمد لله وحده، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبع نهجه ووفى عهده، وبعد. However, just as you are in full desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reward that He has prepared for you, the other side of this is that we are in continuous reverence and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's just punishment. This has been a piece or a part of our deen that has been washed down lately. Been washed down. I hear people don't wanting to hear about this. They don't want to know about it. They don't tell people about this. Don't talk about it too much. Don't bring it up. Why? Why? Nowhere in the Quran does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever speak of Jannah without speaking about an-nar, and vice versa. Nowhere in the Quran. I dare you to go find it. I challenge you to find a place in the Quran where He speaks about just one of them. He always speaks of both. Maybe He'll speak about one more than the other because the theme of the surah is talking about bliss. But He'll always bring it up. It'll always come in. If the surah is talking about punishment, He will talk about Jannah somewhere there. It's always there. It's always been talking about punishment. I want to share with you a few points about punishment because it's important to understand. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام would say in the hadith narrated by Imam Muslim, كان يقول: والله لو رأيتم ما رأيت لضحكتم قليلا ولبكيتم كثيرا. If you knew what I knew, you saw what I saw, you would laugh very little and you would cry a lot. فقالوا يا رسول الله ما رأيت? O Prophet of Allah, what is it that you saw? فقال الجنة والنار. I saw them both. And after seeing them, I can tell you that you need to reconsider how you are approaching all of this. There are reasons for why talking about punishment is important. Number one, here's a few things just to think about. They say in Arabic, وَبِضِدِّهَا تَتَمَيَّزُ الْأَشْيَاءُ. As human beings, we do not have the ability to understand any given concept if there's nothing to compare it to. We're very simple, by the way. Our minds aren't that complex. They're pretty simple things. We cannot comprehend anything if there's nothing to compare it to. There's no opposite, there's no flip side to it. You have to show me an opposite in order for me to be able to define something. Forget about understanding it. We can't define anything if there's nothing opposite to it. The only reason that life is a definition, is something we call it life, is because there's death. Without death, life wouldn't be it wouldn't be a thing. Just like death itself would not be something if there wasn't life. The universe is all dead in the sense where we define it and we compare it to our own lives. The concept of reward, of bliss, of leisure, of pleasure doesn't mean anything if there is nothing to compare it to. If there is no punishment, if there's no pain, it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. That's why, as a parent, you are continuously frustrated with your children. It's because you understand what it means not to have things. And you made sure that they never had to go through that. So now you're upset. Why don't they appreciate? Exactly because of that. Because they don't know. They never understood. They don't understand what it means not to have something. How do you expect their brains to comprehend not having something they've always had unless it's taken away? That's the only way they can comprehend anything. You can't hold, it's not your children's fault that they don't understand and they feel entitled. This is all they know. You're the one who's capable of being fortunate and being grateful and having gratitude and feeling. It's because you know what it means not to have it. Having the concept of punishment Yawm al-Qiyamah is integral. It is basic. There's no meaning for Jannah if there's no punishment on the other side. If there was not the opposite, then we wouldn't understand, we wouldn't appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is offering. This is a part of our faith, and it's simple. There's always going to be the two flip sides of the coin. You have the pleasure and the leisure which you are promised, which you are destined to, but then there's the opposite side, so that this side here becomes much more clear. It's comprehensible, it's understandable. That's number one. Number two, fear is not a good long-term motive. It's not a good long-term motive. It's a good short-term motive. It works for you at moments when you know you're going to make a mistake. That's where fear helps. And at the second, where you remind yourself that if I do this, punishment is going to be attached to it. If I fall into this sin, if I follow my lust, if I follow my desires, then I will be punished. It's a good motive that will stop you in your tracks. That's why they say, "Man amina al-uqubata asa al-adab." Anyone who does not feel that there's any punishment prepared for them will do anything eventually. Eventually, they'll do anything. Maybe at the beginning they show a little bit of adab, but later on, if there is no punishment, if there is no repercussions, if there are no consequences for doing something wrong, eventually they'll just start doing whatever they want. Fear is an important motive that we have as human beings. It's a part of our survival. It's how we actually evolved as creatures. Having fear, knowing to be afraid of something that we should be afraid of. And a part of it is being afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment. It's a part of how we're supposed to comprehend our deen. It allows us at moments to have taqwa. When we're walking down the street and we want to look at something haram, say something haram, think something haram, take something haram. It's the moment you don't remind yourself, well, Jannah, no, you remind yourself there is nar. There is punishment if I touch what is not mine, so I hold back. It's very helpful. Number three, there's a very critical difference between how we fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how we fear other things. This is very important to understand this well. When I fear you, I am fearing oppression. I fear that you will take what is mine. That's what I fear. When I'm fearing human beings and I'm fearing anything as man-made, I am afraid that it's going to treat me unfairly, that it's going to take away something that is mine, going to oppress me or transgress against my rights. That's what I fear. You do not fear that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't fear that He will mistreat you, that He will treat you unfairly. وَلَا يَظْلِمُ رَبُّكَ أَحَدًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not mistreat anybody. Then what do you fear with Allah? You fear that He treats you with only justice. That's what you fear. We fear that we come on the day of judgment and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala treats us with perfect justice. That's what we're afraid of, because that's not going to work. No, justice is not going to work. I need something more. I know what I've done. Justice is not going to cut this at all. If you're going to treat me with justice, I'm done. I'm doomed. I am doomed for the way I've lived my life. Nothing I've done is, if you're going to break it down, you're going to dissect it and actually see what it is, it's not worth anything. Justice is not going to work. I don't want justice. I want your fadl. I want you to give me more than I would ever imagine to deserve in my life. That's what I'm looking for. When I fear God, I'm not fearing He's going to mistreat me. I'm fearing that He's going to treat me fairly. I fear that I come Yawm al-Qiyamah and He tells me I'm going to treat you fairly today. No, Ya Rabb. No. What do you mean fairly? No, I don't want that. I want the other part. I want where you show me generosity that I can't comprehend. That's what I want. It's a different type of fear. Children can have that with their parents. A child can be afraid of their father that they're going to mistreat them, or the child can be afraid of their father that he's going to treat them fairly and not forgive them. Both children have different relationships with their fathers. Each child has a different type of relationship with their father, because it's a different type of fear altogether. The way we fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not based on the fear of oppression. He would never oppress you. He would never mistreat you or take away what's yours. But if He treats you with nothing but fairness and justice, Yawm al-Qiyamah, we're doomed. We're lost. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ نَارُ جَهَنَّمَ لَا يُقْضَى عَلَيْهِمْ فَيَمُوتُوا ولا يخفف عنهم من عذابها كذلك نجزي كل كفور وهم يصطرخون فيها ربنا أخرجنا نعمل صالحا غير الذي كنا نعمل أولم نعمركم ما يتذكر فيه من تذكر وجاءكم النذير فذوقوا فما للظالمين من نصير فالذين كفروا قطعت لهم ثياب من نار يصب من فوق رؤوسهم الحميم يصهر به ما في بطونهم والجلود ولهم مقامع من حديد كلما أرادوا أن يخرجوا منها من غم أعيدوا فيها وذوقوا عذاب الحريق. These are the verses in the Quran that talk about punishment. We fear it because it's just. We fear the just punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are afraid that somehow He does not show us the amount of compassion and love and bounty that we hope for. It's a very strong motive, fear, if you use it correctly at the moments that they're required. If you use it properly, it's an amazing motive. Jahannam is there. Here's the fourth point that I want to share with you. Because there are definitely people who deserve punishment. There are definitely on this earth people who deserve to be punished. Those who walk around oppressing others, taking what is theirs, killing them, stripping them from their rights, forcing them to live in places where it's not safe, watching them suffer and die. When you are mistreated in your life, when you are oppressed and you have no way to get back, to regain what was yours, you'll understand why Jahannam exists. Because there are those out there who are going to be punished because they deserve it. Because they have done things in this life, they have taken things from others that there's no way to fix. There's nothing waiting for them but that. There are those who deserve punishment, and they will be punished. The only point of this that matters to you is that you're making sure that you're not one of them. The only aspect of this whole deal that you need to take care of is ensuring through your lifestyle, through your choices, through whatever's left of it, that you are not one of them. That Yawm al-Qiyamah, you are not seen as somebody who deserves somehow to be there. يبصرونهم يود المجرم لو يفتدي من عذاب يومئذ ببنيه وصاحبته وأخيه وفصيلته التي تؤويه ومن في الأرض جميعا ثم ينجيه كلا إنها لظى. You're allowed to see it on the day of judgment. They see it. They see Jahannam. And when they see it, they hope, the one who knows that they've done things that causes them to deserve to go there, they start hoping that they could get out of it by offering their children and their spouses and their brothers and their tribes and their nations and their communities and everyone on earth, just not them. If there's some way just for them not to go there, they're willing to offer everyone that ever lived, take them all, burn them all, just not me, just not me. We don't know for sure what that person saw. You can read the Quran and get a sense of it, but whatever they saw must have been pretty bad to generate a feeling of that degree of magnitude, to want to offer everything, just not you. The fifth and final piece that I want to share with you about punishment. Life has pain in it. It has suffering. It has agony. It's a part of the deal. It's a part of life. Do not shield your children from that. Do not shield your children from understanding the reality of existence. That there is suffering, that there is pain, that there is agony, and that what it means to be a good human being, what it means to be a successful Muslim is being able to deal with that appropriately when it occurs to you and when it occurs to people other than you. That's what it means. That's what being a good Muslim means. You having the ability to actually deal with these things, to see them and know what to do next. But shielding children and shielding people from the concept of punishment in the Quran does no one any good at all. It doesn't. It doesn't help. It's unhealthy and it's not appropriate. We fly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the two wings, a desire in what He has promised us and fear from the just punishment that is awaiting if we do not live our lives the way He explained to us to live them. But really, the pinnacle of that relationship you have with God, the high point, aside from these two wings that you're using to make it there, the high point is neither desire nor fear. You start out with them. You start out listening to the verses and desiring, listening to the verses and fearing. And you do that until you come to the point where you're able to generate enough love in your heart that will carry you till Yawm al-Qiyamah. The high point, the pinnacle of this all, is the love that will be generated in your heart when you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you understand what love means, when you comprehend what love actually is, and you understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved you long before you ever understood what it meant to love Him back subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then when He put this bliss and reward on one side, and He put this punishment on the other, He was trying to allow our human brains to comprehend what it means to actually love someone. This is the point of it all. The point is that you elevate your status, that you move from those basic two emotions of desire and fear to the pinnacle, to the high point of love. And that's the goal. That's what this is supposed to do for you. You come to that point of love, and then you accept it all. You say, Ya Rabb, if you give me what I hope for, I accept. And if you don't give me what I hope for, I accept. Because whatever you want for me is what you love for me, and whatever you love is what I love. And if you don't want this for me, then I don't want it either. And if you ended up wanting it later on for me, then I want it at that point as well. Whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you deal, whatever hand you give, I am in full content. Lak alhamd, I am happy with it, because I know that just existing under your eyesight, just knowing that you care for me, just knowing that you continue to watch over me, just knowing that my life is a part of something bigger than myself is more than enough for me. Because way before I ever existed, you have shown me more love than anything has ever shown me in this world. And all I can do, all I can hope for is to generate enough love in this small heart to distribute as much as possible to those around me, and specifically towards you. That is the goal. That is why you read the verses in the Quran that talk about bliss and talk about heaven and talk about paradise. And you read the verses in the Quran that talk about punishment. And you generate fear and you generate desire, and they come together. And once they come together, they generate something much more classy, much more beautiful, and it works longer. It works for a longer period of time. Love is the strongest motive. Nothing comes remotely close to love, but you need to develop it appropriately. I hope that was of benefit for you. On Saturday, inshallah, there is a fundraising dinner at, I'm not sure if it's a dinner, but there's a fundraising event at the London Muslim Mosque for the victims of the horrific earthquake that we witnessed in Turkey and Syria and other parts of Iraq and Lebanon. And I believe that other institutions like MAC and maybe, I don't know if there's others, but there are institutions that are actually putting together funds and preparing these funds to be taken over to those who are in dire need of it. And this is a good example for us to kind of remind ourselves that there are things to be afraid of in this world. But that fear has to turn into something positive. The fear that you have turns into a positive energy that allows you to respond, to do something, to offer what you have. That's what you use it for. That's the point of its existence. It's not there so that we sit at home feeling depressed. It's there so that we get up and we do something about it, knowing that we can and we have the ability and we have the responsibility to do so. So I would ask you all, inshallah, to respond appropriately. واعلموا أن الله أمرنا بأمر عظيم فقال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد وارض اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء السادة الحنفاء أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وارض اللهم عن أزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وعن آله الطيبين الطاهرين وعن صحابته الغر المحجلين وعن التابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم فرج هموم المهمومين ونفس كروب المكروبين وارفع الغم عن المغمومين وارفع الظلم عن المظلومين واحقن دماءنا ودماء المسلمين وعاف مبتلانا ومبتلى المسلمين اللهم ارحم ضعفهم اللهم اجبر كسرهم اللهم تول أمرهم اللهم كن معهم ولا تكن عليهم بقوتك يا قوي ويا متين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون أقم الصلاة
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله